Welcome everyone. Today is not just another video, it is a total mental reset. Today, you are going to learn how to lock information into your brain for good. Even if right now you feel like your mind is a sieve that forgets everything, listen up. Your brain is not broken. Your memory is not weak. You have simply been using the wrong methods. And today, that ends. You see, top students in places like Tokyo or Osaka are not born with special gear. They are trained with specific systems. They grow up in a culture that treats memory as a muscle. And what do you do with a muscle? You train it. You repeat. You challenge it. You push it to get stronger every single day. Think about it. These students memorize thousands of complex symbols. They master difficult subjects under intense pressure. They do not just learn facts, they retain, apply, and live them. And most importantly, they do this without burning out, without excuses, and without saying, "I just cannot remember." Because in their world, memory is a form of discipline. It is a habit. It is a system. And today, we are going to uncover the exact steps that make this possible, so you can apply them to your own life. This video is for you if you are tired of forgetting everything after one single day. You highlight, you underline, you reread, but nothing sticks. You feel frustrated because your brain is not working the way you want. You want to reach the top of your class, master a new language, or prepare for a big goal. But your memory is the bottleneck. Stay until the end, because every method I am about to show you will not just boost your memory, it will change how you study, how you think, and how you believe in yourself. This is not about magic tricks. This is not about memorizing useless trivia. This is about permanently upgrading your brain using the same tools that millions of high achievers use daily. Take a deep breath, sit up straight, and get ready to become the kind of learner who never forgets. Because from this moment forward, you are no longer just a student. You are a memory master in training. Make sure to watch until the end and subscribe if you are serious about improving. Lesson 1. Active recall. Pull, don't push. Let us start with the most powerful memory technique in the world. It is used by elite learners, backed by cognitive science, and ignored by almost everyone who forgets easily. It is called active recall. Most students do something passive. They read, they highlight, they underline. They feel productive, but nothing actually sinks in. That is input learning. You keep pushing data into your head. But elite learners do the opposite. They pull information out. Imagine you read a page about the history of the Great War. A typical student finishes the page and moves on. But a master learner closes the book and asks, "Okay, what was the main reason for the conflict? Can I explain the timeline without looking? What was the name of the treaty?" That is active recall. You force your brain to search, to retrieve, to work. Why is this better? Because your brain is not a container. It is a muscle, and muscles only grow when you use them. Every time you pull an answer from memory, even if you are wrong, even if you struggle, you are making that memory stronger. Let us say you are learning English vocabulary. You could look at the word resilient 10 times. That is passive. Or you could close your book and ask, "What does resilient mean? Can I use it in a sentence? Who do I know that is resilient?" That moment of struggle, that silence in your mind where you try to remember, that is where real memory is formed. You are not just seeing the word, you are using it. Memory does not respect what you see. Memory respects what you struggle to recall. Here is how to use active recall starting today. Step 1. After studying, immediately close your material. Step 2. Write down or speak 3 questions that cover what you just learned. Step 3. Try to answer them without looking. Step 4. Check your answers and correct your mistakes. Step 5. Do it again the next day without looking at your notes first. It might feel uncomfortable. You might feel like you are failing, but this is productive failure. It is the kind of failure that makes you smarter because you are building memory from mental effort, not comfort. And guess what? Top learners do not do this once a week. They do it daily, quietly, and repeatedly. So remember this: the more you test yourself, the less the world will test you. The more you ask yourself questions, the more answers you will always have. And the more you recall, the more you will remember permanently. Lesson 2. The Kuman Method. Train your memory like a martial art. If there is one philosophy from Japan that has helped millions of students around the world achieve greatness, it is the Kuman Method. And no, this is not just about math problems. It is a fundamental mindset for how you approach learning. So, what exactly is it? The method was developed by a teacher named Mr. Sato, who believed in a simple but incredibly powerful idea. If a student masters one small task perfectly every single day, their brain eventually becomes unstoppable. He did not care about rushing. He did not care about speed. He cared about one thing: perfect repetition of simple steps. And this is the missing piece of the puzzle in your life. Most people try to swallow a whole book in one sitting. That is a mistake. Instead, you should study one page, but study it 10 times. You do not try to remember 20 new words in a single afternoon. You take 5 words and master them so deeply they become part of your identity. You do not move on to the next level until you can complete the current task without any stress or hesitation. Imagine you are trying to learn how to write the word discipline. A typical student writes it once, checks the dictionary, and moves on to the next word. But a Kuman-trained learner? They write the word 20 times. They say it aloud 10 times. They use it in 3 unique sentences. They come back the next day and write it again without looking. This is not overdoing it. This is permanent mastery. Memory does not care about your hunger for speed. Memory cares about your ability to repeat perfectly without getting bored. This is where most learners fail. They chase quantity because they want to feel smart. But the smartest students do not rush. They build automatic memory through calm, controlled, and focused repetition. Think of it like a martial artist practicing the same movement 1,000 times until it becomes effortless. That is the spirit you need. It is not about pressure, it is about mental patience. To apply this, start here. First, pick one specific topic or concept. Second, break it down into micro pieces. Do not try to learn all of English grammar at once. Just focus on the simple past tense. Third, write it, speak it, and teach it back to yourself until it feels as natural as brushing your teeth. Fourth, review it again the next day. Fifth, only move to the next topic when you can explain the first one perfectly without looking at your notes. This is how the best learners outperform everyone else. They do not race ahead. They build a solid foundation behind the scenes until everything becomes automatic. If you want your brain to remember without constant effort, you need to train like this. Not for the thrill of speed, but for the excellence of mastery. One page, one sentence, one step, mastered through calm repetition. That is how you build an unshakable memory. Lesson 3. Spaced repetition. Review at the right time, not all the time. Most people have a major misconception about how memory works. They think if they want to remember something, they should just study it over and over again in one single day. So they cram. They repeat the same material 5 times today, only to wake up tomorrow and find that most of it has vanished. Why does this happen? Because your brain is not designed to memorize everything in one go. It is designed to remember things that it encounters again and again over a period of time. That is where spaced repetition comes into play. Instead of exhausting yourself by repeating everything immediately, you review your material at carefully planned intervals. Here is the rhythm. Day 1, you learn the topic. Day 2, you do your first review while the information is still fresh in your mind. Day 4, you do a second review, right when your brain has started to forget. This is the perfect time to reinforce those neural pathways. By day 7, you do a third review. Now the memory is really starting to stick. Finally, on day 30, you do a long-term check. Why is this so effective? Because it respects a principle called the forgetting curve. It means your brain is naturally wired to discard information unless you remind it just in time. High-performing students, whether they realize it or not, follow this principle using flashcards, weekly schedules, or mini-tests. They do not review every single hour. They review every few days. Let us say you learned 5 new English words today. Day 1, you learn them. Day 2, you review them without looking at your notes. Day 4, you test yourself again. Day 7, you try to put all 5 words into brand new sentences. Then, on day 30, you ask yourself, can I still recall all 5 without any help? If the answer is yes, you have achieved real memory. If not, no big deal. Just repeat the cycle. This method is universal. It works for historical dates, science formulas, English vocabulary, or even confidence-building phrases. It gives your brain the necessary space to forget, and then the opportunity to strengthen the connection. That strengthening process is exactly what makes a memory unforgettable. How can you apply this right now? Keep a simple study journal. After every topic you study, write down the date. Then, schedule your reviews for day 2, day 4, day 7, and day 30. Do not overstudy. Just stick to the schedule. Speak, write, or teach the topic again each time you review. This is how memory athletes train. This is how the best students prepare for high-pressure exams. They do not panic. They plan. And their plan gives them peace of mind because they know that even if they forget something today, they will meet that information again. And every time they meet it, that memory becomes stronger. That is the power of spaced repetition. It is not about reviewing more. It is about reviewing at the right time. If you're serious about mastering your memory, stop flooding your brain and start spacing your reviews. Lesson 4. Kaizen, the secret of 1% daily improvement. This next technique is not just for students. It is used by athletes, engineers, artists, and top business leaders across the globe. It has one simple name: Kaizen. In short, Kaizen means continuous, incremental improvement. It is the practice of taking tiny, manageable steps every single day without ever stopping. Let us be honest for a second. Most students make a huge mistake. They wait for a burst of motivation. They study like crazy for 6 hours one day, and then they disappear for a week. They try to memorize everything at once, only to forget it all just as fast. That is the exact opposite of how Kaizen works. Kaizen does not care how much you do today. Kaizen only cares if you improve by just 1%. Think about the math of consistency. If you improve your memory by just 1% every single day, you are not just 300% better by the end of the year. You are actually 37 times better because those small wins compound over time. High-achieving students are trained in this mindset from childhood. They do not study for 6 hours and then quit. They study consistently for 30 or 45 minutes every single day. They track their progress, reflect on their mistakes, and adjust slowly. They are building study stamina over months and years, not in a single week. Kaizen is about discipline. It is about making your study sessions so small that it is impossible to say no. You want to memorize 300 English words? Do not say you will do 50 words this week. Instead, commit to 5 words every day, but do it perfectly. Read them, write them, speak them, and review them using the spaced repetition we talked about earlier. Use them in a sentence. Teach them to yourself. That is how you apply Kaizen. Even if it feels slow, it is deep. Even if it feels small, it is stable. Even if it feels boring, it is brilliant. Memory does not grow by speed. It grows by consistency. Kaizen makes you unstoppable, not because you study harder, but because you never stop studying. You become the type of person who never skips a day. You always review yesterday before starting today. You make learning a natural part of your life, rather than a source of stress. This is why top students look so calm. They do not panic during exams because they have been preparing quietly and consistently for months. So apply this today. Write down your memory goal. If you want to learn 200 idioms, break it into daily targets. 5 idioms a day with clear examples. Review your old notes while learning new ones. Reflect weekly on what is working and what needs a tweak. Do not skip a single day, even if you only have 15 minutes. The truth is simple. Kaizen does not care how slowly you go. Kaizen only cares that you never stop. Lesson 5. Interleaved practice. Mix to master. Most people fall into the trap of blocked practice. This is when you sit down and decide to do 10 grammar drills, followed by 20 vocabulary words, then 1 long chapter of history. It feels organized. It feels productive. But in reality, it is dangerous because it gives you a false sense of confidence. You think you understand the material because you are practicing the same thing over and over in a predictable sequence. But life and exams do not work that way. Now compare that to how top-tier learners approach their study sessions. They do not block everything off, they mix it up. They jump from grammar to vocabulary, then to a reading passage, and then back to a quick review of something they learned last week. This means they are constantly juggling different topics and problem types, which forces the brain to work harder, switch gears, and build deeper, more flexible connections. Yes, this feels tougher. Yes, it feels slightly uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly why it works. Your brain is being challenged to adapt rather than just memorize. You are not just storing facts, you are making sense of them across different contexts. Imagine you are prepping for an English proficiency exam. Instead of spending 3 hours grinding only on grammar, try this. Do 20 minutes of grammar, 20 minutes of vocabulary, 20 minutes of listening practice, take a short break, then tackle a writing task, and finish with 10 minutes of recalling a topic from yesterday. Now your brain is forced to switch, connect, and adapt. You are moving beyond simple memorization into true mastery. When you switch between different topics, your brain pays closer attention and becomes more active. This is especially powerful for long-term retention. In the real world, you never face challenges in a perfect, prearranged order. So stop doing the same type of task all day. Mix in 3 or 4 different subjects. Review an old concept while learning a new one. Speak, write, listen, and recall, all within one study block. This method is the gold standard for competitive exam winners and memory athletes. They do not just train their brains to remember, they train their brains to recognize, connect, and respond in any situation. That is how you build a flexible, deep, and permanent memory. Interleaved practice is not about being random. It is about controlled variety. It is memory training under pressure. And that pressure is exactly what makes your mind sharper and more capable than ever before. Lesson 6. Emotional Mnemonics. Connect facts with feelings. If I asked you what you ate for breakfast last Tuesday, you would likely draw a total blank. But if I ask you about the day you received a life-changing surprise, or the day you felt your heart break, you would remember every single detail. Why? Because the brain does not just store dry facts, it prioritizes feelings. High-achieving learners have been trained to bridge the gap between cold information and warm emotion, which creates memories that simply do not fade. Let us simplify this. A mnemonic is just a tool to help you remember. It could be a funny rhyme, a bizarre image, or a short, dramatic story. For instance, many people use "never eat soggy waffles" to remember the cardinal directions: north, east, south, and west. These are classic memory hacks. But most people use them in a boring way, and that is why they fail. If your mnemonic does not trigger a feeling, it will evaporate. To make it stick, you need to make it personal. Here is what elite students do, especially when tackling complex topics or tricky vocabulary. They turn words into vivid scenes. They imagine stories, they exaggerate, they dramatize, and they even laugh at how ridiculous the images are. If it is too dull to feel, it is too dull to remember. Suppose you are trying to remember a scientific process like photosynthesis. You could just reread the definition 10 times, or you could visualize a plant wearing a chef's hat, holding a frying pan, and catching rays of sunlight like eggs for breakfast. It sounds silly, right? But that is exactly why it works. It is visual, it is emotional, and it is memorable. Or think about a difficult history date. Instead of writing it down repeatedly, imagine a soldier sitting on a wall, dropping his rifle, and hugging a child while crying out that it is finally over. That creates a powerful emotion. And emotions act like anchors for your memory. Even in subjects like law, medicine, or advanced math, this works because your brain does not store data like a cold computer hard drive. It stores experiences. Here is your action plan. First, pick a concept or word that keeps slipping your mind. Second, build a story around it. Make it funny, sad, or dramatic, anything that sparks a reaction. Third, speak that story out loud. If you can, draw a quick sketch of it. Fourth, every time you recall that fact, try to recall the emotion too. After a few reviews, that information will be locked in. Imagination creates meaning, and meaning creates permanent memory. If you only read it, you will lose it. But if you feel it, you will never forget it. Lesson 7. The Bento Box System. Organize your memory. Let us move on to a method that is not about repetition or emotion, but about something even more critical: mental architecture. Most students do not forget because they are lazy. They forget because their brain is a cluttered mess. Think of your mind as a physical room. If you throw all your clothes, books, and trash into one pile, you will never find what you need when you are in a rush. No matter how smart you are, a chaotic space leads to a chaotic memory. So, how do high-achieving students avoid this? They live in a culture that values order and intentional design. The perfect example is the traditional bento box. A bento is not just a lunch container, it is a carefully organized system. The rice has its own section, the vegetables have another, and the protein is tucked away in its own corner. Everything is separated, balanced, and intentional. Now imagine if you studied that way. Most students sit down to study and try to do grammar, vocabulary, reading, and listening all at once, while listening to loud music and checking their phones. There is no structure, no categories, and no system. Then they wonder why they cannot remember anything. The answer is simple. Your brain craves structure. To apply this, start by creating separate mental containers. If you are prepping for a big exam, dedicate one section of your notebook specifically for vocabulary, another for complex formulas, a third for common mistakes, and a fourth for your memory triggers or emotional mnemonics. Next, study each container at a different time. Do your vocabulary in the morning, writing in the afternoon, and save your review sessions for the evening. When it is time to focus on vocabulary, keep your brain locked on that section only. Do not try to learn something new when you are supposed to be reviewing. You are building clean, distinct memory spaces in your mind. Finally, end your day with a quick check. Just like you would inspect every section of a bento box before eating, ask yourself, what did I learn today? Which category does it belong to? What needs to be reviewed tomorrow? When you study like this, something magical happens. Your brain becomes calm. You stop panicking when you forget a detail because you know exactly where it is stored. You stop getting distracted because you are not jumping between unrelated tasks. You become centered and sharp. Chaos kills memory, but organization feeds it. If your brain has been scattered and overloaded, it is time to build your own bento box. Separate your study blocks, protect your peace, and remember, the calmest mind is the most powerful one. Lesson 8. The sieve method. Structure your knowledge with numbers. The human brain is not a fan of chaos. It craves patterns, order, and clear logic. This is where the sieve method comes in. In essence, it is the practice of converting raw information into numbered lists, steps, and logical groups. High-achieving students rarely try to memorize a massive, rambling paragraph of text. Instead, they break everything down into a numbered system. Why? Because the brain remembers clear patterns, not random noise. Think about it for a second. You might struggle to remember a long, complex explanation, but you can easily recall the 7 days of the week, the 5 fingers on your hand, or the 3 meals you eat every day. Why is that? Because numbers act like mental hooks. They give your brain a specific place to hang information. Without numbers, your knowledge just floats around aimlessly. With them, it sticks. Instead of telling yourself there are many reasons for a failure, say there are 3 main causes. Instead of saying there are many rules in a chapter, say, remember these 5 rules. Instead of saying a topic is big, say it has 4 distinct parts. Suddenly, your brain relaxes. It thinks, okay, I know exactly what I need to learn. This simple shift removes fear, kills the feeling of overwhelm, and skyrockets your focus. Most learners try to absorb everything at once. They read a full chapter, highlight every single sentence, and then forget almost everything by the next morning. Why? Because there is no structure. It is like trying to organize a room where everything is piled on the floor. Numbers turn that mess into clean, organized shelves. This method works for everything: science, history, business, law, or engineering. Here is how you do it. Step 1. Ask yourself, how many main points are here? Not what does this say, but how many? Step 2. Force a structure. Even if your book does not provide numbers, you create them. This process has 4 steps. This theory has 2 sides. This chapter has 5 key ideas. You are training your mind to organize before you even start memorizing. Step 3. Attach one idea to one number. Each number becomes a container for your memory. When you recall the number, your brain automatically searches for the content because numbers activate logical memory, which is far stronger than passive memory. When you tell your brain there are 4 causes, it will search for all 4. It will not stop at 3. This creates an active, logical search inside your mind. They do not panic because they do not see a mountain of data. They see a clear, manageable quantity. They do not say, I have so much to study. They say, I have 5 things to master today. That mental clarity is a superpower. Always convert information into numbered lists. Always review by numbers first. Ask yourself, can I recall all 3? Did I miss the 4th one? When numbers become natural to you, forgetting becomes rare because your brain is no longer confused, it is guided. Structure creates confidence, and confidence strengthens memory. That is the power of the sieve method. Lesson 9. Visual Encoding. Think in pictures. Here is a truth you need to know. Your brain evolved long before we ever started writing things down. For thousands of years, humans survived by remembering faces, tracking animals, and navigating dangerous terrain. All of these are visual experiences. That is exactly why you remember a person's face better than their name, and why you remember a movie scene better than a page of text. Visual encoding is the art of tapping into this ancient ability. Most people try to memorize abstract symbols, long definitions, and dry technical jargon. The brain hates abstraction. It gets bored, it gets tired, and it eventually shuts down. But the moment you turn that dry information into a vivid, meaningful image, your brain lights up. Instead of just staring at a word, ask yourself, what does this look like? What story does this remind me of? What kind of image could represent this core idea? Expert learners do not see characters or sentences as random lines. They see components, stories, and deep meaning. You can do the exact same thing with any subject you are studying. Let us say you are trying to grasp a complex concept like discipline. Instead of repeating the word until your brain turns to mush, create a scene. Imagine a person waking up before the sun, choosing to do the hard work while everyone else is still asleep. Now, the word is not just a bunch of letters anymore. It is a scene, and scenes are remembered automatically. This technique has two layers. First, meaning. You attach a purpose to information. You do not just memorize empty facts. You ask why this exists and what it represents. Second, pattern. You break the information into smaller parts. Your brain loves patterns. When something has clear structure and meaning, the memory process becomes almost effortless. Here is your step-by-step guide. Step 1. Break the information into parts. No matter how complex a topic is, it is always made of smaller, simpler ideas. Step 2. Turn each piece into an image or a physical action in your mind. You do not have to be an artist, just see it clearly in your imagination. Step 3. Connect those images into one cohesive scene. Scenes are much easier to recall than long, boring lists. Step 4. Recall the scene. The information will come back to you automatically because you are now using visual, emotional, and logical memory all at the same time. This creates multiple pathways in your brain. Even if one pathway fails, another one will be there to save you. That is why this method is so incredibly powerful. They do not memorize blindly. They understand structure and meaning first. They treat information with respect. And when you treat information with respect, your brain stores it properly. If you try to memorize words, you will forget. If you memorize the meaning and the image, you will never forget. This technique will not make you a genius overnight, but it will make your brain deeper, calmer, and sharper over time. Once you learn to think in images and patterns, everything becomes easier to remember. Lesson 10. The 1,000 times rule. From forgettable to unstoppable. This final principle is about having the heart of a warrior. It is a mindset that says, if I forget something today, I will repeat it 1,000 times if I have to. I will not stop until this knowledge becomes a permanent part of who I am. You have to understand that repetition is not boring. Repetition is training. Repetition is the ultimate form of transformation. In many rigorous schools, when a student struggles to write a complex character or solve a tough problem, they do not complain, they do not panic, and they certainly do not jump to something easier. They write that same character over and over again. Even if it takes 1,000 attempts, they do it. Not because they are being punished, but because they are building permanence. They believe that if they give their full focus to one thing, they can become unstoppable. This completely changes how you view failure. Most students think, I forgot this word again, so maybe I am just not smart enough. Maybe this topic is too hard for me. I tried twice and it is not sticking, so I will just give up. That is the exact mindset that keeps you average. But the 1,000 times rule says, I forgot. Good, that means it is not deep yet. So I will repeat it with more love, more focus, and more intention. This is not about mindlessly writing something 1,000 times in one sitting. This is about developing the grit to keep going when things get difficult. Everything worth remembering requires pressure, patience, and practice. Repetition literally rewires your brain. Every time you repeat a concept, you are strengthening neural connections, reducing mental resistance, and building long-term memory networks. But this only happens after the 20th, 50th, or even 100th time. Most students quit by the 3rd repetition. You are going to go beyond that. You are going to trust the process because you know it works. You can use the 1,000 times rule for vocabulary, formulas, historical dates, or even speeches you want to memorize. Anything you want to own, you commit to it fully. You do not ask how many times is enough. You say, as many times as it takes until I never forget it again. Here is your simple path to mastery. First, identify your weak spots. What do you keep forgetting? Second, pick just one target item. Do not try to conquer 10 things at once. Focus on one. Third, break it into small, manageable units. Fourth, create a repetition ritual. Write the phrase 20 times in the morning. Say it out loud 10 times before bed. Record yourself and listen to it on your walk. Fifth, track how it feels. Day 1, it feels hard. Day 7, it feels familiar. Day 14, it becomes a part of you. And if you forget again, you go back to the practice. This is the path of true mastery. You stop seeing forgetting as a failure and start seeing it as unfinished repetition. You stop blaming your brain and start training it. You become dangerously consistent, and dangerously consistent people always win. Not because they know more, but because they never stop refining what they already know. If you repeat something enough times, your brain has no choice but to accept it. This rule is not about pain. It is about peace. You know your goal, you know your method, and you know that your mind will eventually bend. That is how you build an identity that creates real, permanent change. Let me speak directly to every single one of you watching this. To every learner who feels frustrated, to everyone who has ever said, I am just not smart enough, or I forget everything I study. Your memory is not broken, it is simply untrained. And today, you have finally been given the blueprint. You have seen the exact path that elite learners follow, not because it is a trendy secret, but because it is a proven system that works. You have learned how to use active recall to force your brain to pull information, how to use micromastery to build mental stamina, and how to use spaced repetition to make your knowledge stick for the long haul. You have seen how the power of Kaizen turns tiny daily improvements into massive results, how the sieve method brings order to chaos with numbers, and how visual encoding and emotional mnemonics turn dry facts into unforgettable stories. You now understand how to organize your mind like a bento box and how to commit to the 1,000 times rule until you reach true mastery. From this day forward, you are no longer just a student struggling to keep up. You are a memory warrior. You have the tools, you have the system, and you have the mindset. Now you have one choice. Do not just watch this video and move on to the next distraction. Take one of these techniques, just one, and apply it to your study session today. Practice, struggle, repeat, and rise until your memory becomes your greatest superpower. Because the world will never ask you how fast you learned something. It will only ask how well you can remember and apply what actually matters. So make this your mission, to never again be a victim of forgetfulness, to never again settle for 50% of your mental potential. You have the system now. Use it. Live it. Own it. And remember, discipline beats talent, consistency beats intelligence, and systems beat motivation. Memory is a skill that anyone can master, you included. Now go out there and start training.